The Thorn was a mouse I wasn't expecting to buy, let alone like, but when an eBay seller gave me an offer I couldn't refuse, I decided to try it out. And yeah, let's start out with the scroll wheel. Has very noticeable detents. They are very rounded in feel, so you can theoretically get it sort of between two notches, but that was never an issue for me in practice. I do a lot of like 3D modeling, design, zooming at work, so the notchiness honestly is really good for executing simple steps, whether it's switching weapons or zooming in like Photoshop or whatever. Middle mouse is on the lighter side and very spammable, has a very fast rebound. It's on the lighter side of middle mouse buttons, but obviously still heavier than mouse 1 and mouse 2. The only other thing is with how sort of rounded the encoder steps feel, it's rather quiet, which is nice. And the rubber on the top is, Lamzu did a really good job. The like tilde thing on there has a little bit of a ridge to it, so it definitely grabs at your finger. Way more so than, even though like a GPX, it looks like those ridges are, like you can feel those ridges, but your finger can kind of slip over them. This, maybe it's like an EPDM foam or something rather than a rubber, like the Rocket Cone Pure Military Edition back in the day that everyone loved the scroll wheel on. It's really good. Side buttons are also excellent. Because if you want to call it pre-travel, I'm really pressing the switch there though. I wouldn't call that pre-travel. Yeah, I'd say no pre-travel. Post-travel, I guess they're technically a sum, but that is a lot of force. So you're never really in that area of travel, so these are really fast and spammable. They're very nicely rounded, so if you're the kind of person who keeps a low thumb angle and you want to roll into the buttons, super easy, decent amount of separation between the two. And because they're so rounded, if you do have a wonky grip where you're in contact with them, it's not too jarring. It's not sharp. The thing I like the most about the buttons is just how far they stick out. I don't know why other manufacturers don't do this. Give me big side buttons that stick out far. Like, we put our thumbs all the way down here, basically touching the pad, or at least, I don't know, maybe I'm the weird one out. That's what I do. So I don't mind having really big side buttons that stick out. Mouse 1 and mouse 2, optical switches. A lot of implementations have been bad. These are really good. You can click pretty high up, and it still feels nice and poppy. Down lower, yeah, it feels absolutely excellent there. They have a fast rebound to them, which is really good. Basically no pre-travel. This is all switch spring here. A little bit of post-travel, if you want to call it that. I would say not really. You really have to force that down. You're never in that part of the stroke. So very spammable. My only gripe is they are kind of loud compared to like an X-Lite V3. These are quite a bit more solid sounding, but they don't feel as good. There's more pre and post travel. Talking about the skates, another area that I'm very impressed. These are great skates. They're incredibly smooth, very nicely rounded. The smoothness is what's really nice about them. They just don't feel like, so many other skates just feel like kind of like papery, or like, yeah, kind of like a harder plastic. These feel almost gummy or like soft, like a melted butter. They're really nice. There's an extra set that comes in the box. Probably put that on one of my other mice. I don't really know the purpose of these three middle skates so much. I'm guessing the bigger and smaller dots are just because of the thumb groove here. Yeah, DPI button, power button on the bottom. They're a moderate speed, I would say. I have some dot skates these are my fastest dot skates, and these are definitely slightly faster, but compared to like stock skates on here's an X-Lite V3 Mini, yeah, that's quite a bit slower. I would say these are closer to the faster side. Call it like a 6 or 7 out of 10 if 5 is the median. Weight. The weight is 52.00 grams on the nose on my jewelry scale. Weight balancing is excellent. I would say it's slightly behind the sensor position, which if you look at where the thumb groove is, it's kind of like you end up kind of gripping more in front of the sensor. So I guess it makes it feel slightly back heavy. But honestly, for the size, this is class leading in terms of weight. The X-Lite V3 Mini is also 52 grams. It's a smaller mouse, and if you gave me a blindfold, I would think this one's heavier, honestly. I don't know why. Maybe it actually is. I haven't weighed it, but Maybe it's just because it feels more dense. I don't know. Whatever helium crap they injected into this mouse, it feels surprisingly light for its size. The only other thing I can think of is the opponent's Stormbreaker is kind of EC2 sized. That's 52 grams, and that's a $180 magnesium mouse. It has a 300 milliamp hour battery, so I guess you could get this down to sub 50 grams if you went with like a 150 milliamp hour battery. Let's talk about the coating or surface finish. I don't think there's a coating. It just feels like textured plastic. It's a very fine powdery feeling. I would say it's really close to the G Pro Superlight, although perhaps this one's a little bit less textured. Yeah, that might just be from wear over time. But I'm a person who glossifies all my mice. Like here's an Aerox 3 that has been acetone vapor bathed. And I don't really see any need to change from this. At work, it's a little bit humid for me there, and grip felt fine there, actually really good. And then here at home where it's dry, also still feels really good. Usually I prefer glossy mice here. Yeah, I guess let's talk about the shape finally. So probably the most interesting thing is the shape. And if I could sum it up, I would say it's like a G Pro Superlight where it's a very safe shape because it has pretty flat sides where you can grip sort of anywhere along the length of the mouse, but then everywhere else on the mouse is very rounded and very accommodating to different, tilt angles or grip styles and such. So, more detail. The thumb groove on the side here looks rather aggressive, but it actually feels pretty flat pretty much from here to here, everywhere where you would actually be placing your thumb. Like the EC3 has, I don't think my camera's going to really pick it up, but it has like a little bit of a bulge right here that sort of positions your thumb a little bit farther forward. The Thorn, even with this big cutout, it feels pretty flat all the way through. So if you do low thumb angle, I think it's excellent. But even with high thumb angle, like an aggressive claw, which is how I grip, still feels pretty good. You can grip pretty far forward too. There's this Nadka duct looking LED light hole here. You can't feel it. It's so close to the seam, even if you sit really far forward. Yeah, that's really not an issue in my opinion. As far as the other side goes, it's again, same story, pretty flat, surprisingly flat. If you grip like really far forward, I would say, yeah, there's a ring finger ledge if you're sort of at the N or the A and forward. Otherwise, behind that, it feels pretty much flat until you get rather far back, like into pinky finger cat territory. So you're going to be looking at a pretty flat-sided mouse on both sides, but it's not flat like, no, maybe I would call it flat, kind of like a Prime Mini. Yeah. Yeah, actually I would. That's not a bad comparison. There's not really comfort grooves in the buttons. There's a little bit of flare by the scroll wheel. I would say it's even less than the G Pro Superlight though, and obviously much less than like an X-Lite V3. This has beautiful comfort grooves that just feel so good, kind of like the MZ1 Zeiss Rail mouse. As far as the hump goes, it's rather centralized, but it does kind of come farther back. So similar to how the G Pro Superlight is. Rather centralized hump, but it carries that length further back, whereas something like Model D-, which is like an EC clone, you can see it wants to flatten out rather quickly. Again, centered hump though, but flattens out quickly. This guy really does keep his bulbous bulge, his junk in the trunk there a little bit further back. And as a person who aggressive claws, I thought I wouldn't like that because it makes it feel more like I'm palming. I don't think it's too bad though. I think the other parts of the mouse just are very accommodating, so it all just feels very soft and subtle. See anything I missed? It does come with a sticker. I don't know why more manufacturers don't do this, so that you're, God forbid you have pets who have hair, you don't get that inside. It came with some grip tape too, and I think that just about does it. I'm overall extremely happy. I think Lamzu knocked this one out of the park. I modify all my mice. Like I have a wall of mice behind the camera and something on them. The micro switches I switch out because they feel like crap. The side buttons are mushy, this guy. So you modify the structure in there, or the scroll wheel middle mouse is way too stiff, so you swap that out, or the encoder doesn't have good tactility, so you switch that out. The weight is way too heavy with a stupid extra 11 gram battery in it, or the balancing is really bad or something. Or skates are an easy one. Stock skates are notoriously scratchy. I mean, again, G Pro Superlight, holy crap. But the Thorn just does everything very well. I don't think it's not my number one favorite shape. I definitely like the EC3 a little bit more for that kind of fine pencil-like grip. But yeah, there's really nothing bad to say about the mouse. So congrats, Lamzu. This is an easy recommendation that I can give because I think there kind of needs no tweaking. If you're in the market for a medium-sized ergo, I think this should be at the top of your shopping list. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys.